right, I'm calling this February 14th meeting of the Lowell Historic Board to order. I see that we have a quorum. The first item on the agenda is a public hearing for 62 Gorham Street, which is DLHD-22-16. And I believe the applicant is online.
That's correct. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. For the record, my name is, and good evening to all. Happy Valentine's Day to all. Getting my holidays confused. Anyway, for the record, my name is John Geary of Geary & Geary LLP, 32 Church Street, Lowell, Mass. I'm here tonight representing the applicant and owner, 62 Gorham Street LLC. Leo Montero is the principal of the LLC, and Leo is with us virtually tonight as well. Steve's notes on this agenda item are very thorough and provide the board with an excellent synopsis of the project. And as mentioned in those notes, we are seeking a historic permit for the property owned by the applicant at 62 Gorham Street, which is located in the downtown historic district. The property was historically known as the James Carr House, but more commonly known by all of us as Danish Market. The city planning department has enthusiastically endorsed the redevelopment of this property, as well as the redevelopment of 80 Gorham Street, which is just a couple of doors up from 62 Gorham Street. And I believe that they enthusiastically endorsed the projects because of the value added to the neighborhood specifically and the city generally. Leo's plan to redevelop this particular property is to rehabilitate, a complete rehabilitation of the interior exterior of the property, 2 commercial units on the ground floor with 5 residential units. We expect the cost of the redevelopment will be in excess of $1 million. Leo has applied for both federal and state historic tax credits for the rehabilitation of the property. We've provided the board with the most up-to-date plans that we have. We've reviewed the conditions that Steve is proposing as part of the approval process, and we have no issue with those conditions and would be agreeable as part of the approval. But otherwise, we feel that we meet the criteria for issuance of the historic permit tonight. And at this point, I'll turn the presentation over to Leo so Leo can go through what his plans are with the restoration of the facade of the building and generally the overall project. And then we're happy to answer any questions that the board members may have. So Leo, are you available?
Yes, I'm here. And I'm sharing my screen. Good evening, members of the board. My name is Leo Montero. I am the president of, or the manager of 62 Gorham LLC, and also the owner of 62 Gorham Street. I'm sharing my screen. I'm hoping you guys can see it.
Yes, you can see it.
Okay, so this is a rendering of the property. This was done early in the stages of design development. I wouldn't pay much attention to this. This is just for illustration purposes at this moment, as things have changed during my conversations with Steve Stolo in our site meetings as well. I'll give you a brief lay of the land of the project of what we're proposing. Ground floor plan where Dana's used to be on. This is where the ice cream, the soda fountain store used to be, and this is where the fruit basket store used to be, as we all remember. We are proposing to keep the 2 commercial areas as is, but also improving the layout and bringing the building up to code, most importantly, by creating the proper means of egress for the property, which it was not present in the past. You know, it was more, the building was a work and live type of space where people used to close up the stores, go up to the units upstairs, where I'll show the second floor now. So here, as we can see on the second floor plan, the original 2 units were present here. This is the original historic the original structure of the property, the initial single family with a couple of bedrooms upstairs. We are proposing, and as John mentioned, we have been approved by zoning and the planning board to increase the number of units by 3, which are these units in the back here. And this is where their commercial kitchen used to be. The second floor was existing. I should note that this area here was partially collapsed, where the roof drain had failed, and the roof joists were literally just hanging in the middle of the building. Water was coming into the building. The building was, in great disrepair. The third floor addition, which is here, this is brand new, and it's actually already built. We do have a structural permit on hand, and we've been working on saving this structure since past September. And I can proudly say that we have saved the building at this point. We have all new floor structures, floor members, including a steel beam that was installed here, which is required per the building code. They had replaced a metal beam here originally, the previous owners, but they never replaced the whole front facade. So we had a wood beam that was holding this section of the facade, but we have replaced that, and it was quite a bit of a feat, and pretty much it was a transplant, I call it, since we had to properly secure the facade, remove the supporting member, and put the new member in. But if you do a drive-by today, you'll see the new member installed safely and secured. We were accomplished that in the past couple of weeks. A couple of the existing plans here. This is where we had the issue with the roof, and that you'll see on the next pages our proposed addition, which is a simple third floor addition connecting to this height, so we can gain the top floor of our 3 units here. Again, looking from the outside, this is the original house. These 2 floors used to have the 2 original units, and we are proposing the 3 units, the 3 additional units back here where the commercial kitchen used to be, right around this floor. This is, now we're at the proposed plans. I'll start with the front. I do understand, and as John mentioned, we are totally okay with Steve's comments. We understand that this is going to be a process, a partnership between us and Steve. We are fully aware of the historic demands of the property, and we do understand all the requirements. We do have an architect on board who will be working with Steve and myself on providing detailed plans for the storefronts. These glass are currently there, but as we are moving forward with construction and as we meet with Steve, we're going to come up with a plan to restore the detailed glass, the lead glass, and also hopefully do improvements to improve the storefront for thermal capacity and better insulating properties, etc. Unfortunately, a lot of the building has fallen in disrepair with the previous owners. It lacked maintenance and care, I should say, because they let it go badly, and to a point that I don't think much can be done to save. Obviously, the front doors, we will be restoring them. We will be saving all these accent glass, and even these glasses here, I believe they can be saved, but we will have to be rebuilding quite a bit of the wood structure to the current historic standards. And our plans do mention that everything that we'll do will be seeking Steve's approval and the board's approval as well. Here's the exterior elevation, the proposed exterior elevations. I'd like to make a note of the proposed addition, which is the 3rd floor here. As you can see, not visible from the street. We are respecting the peak height, and this will house the bedrooms and a home office for the units upstairs. We're also pointing out here on the plans the heat pump locations of where they're going to be in the building. This is not visible at all. This is the back of the building here, the east elevation. We are looking to have this building to be 100% electric. We are in advanced conversations with the National Grid, an electrician. We are working through the load calculations and the electrical inspector as well. So these are heat pumps. They're very quiet as a fridge, I should mention. More details on the storefront here that we are looking to rebuild. The storefront is pretty much non-existent at this point, as I believe there has been, I take that back. I don't believe, I know there has been multiple car accidents on this corner. And I think there was an accident a couple of years back that a car literally wiped this whole section of the store out, the storefront out. These glasses are still there, the lead glasses with the details, but this whole area in the bottom is non-existent. We have plywood and a temporary wall there. Here's some additional details on the stairs. We are trying to stay true to what we found inside the building as well. So we have been working with historic consultants to hopefully replicate some of the details of the property on the interior, just so we can keep the building as true to its essence as possible, as feasibly possible as well. One of the nice things I found in the building, which we are going to repurpose, we found some original doors, and they have some retail signs that date to the early 1900s. We're going to use these doors here and here. We're currently, once we do this interior framing, these doors will be restored. We're going to be using them here and here. So as people come into the building, the first thing they see, and as they walk through the doors, all of these doors in the front will be original to the building. Windows, we have been talking to Steve as well. I think the determination was that they were going to be 2/2. We have been talking with a couple of different window suppliers as well. And this is an item that is next on our agenda to purchase once we get, the proper approvals from the boards. The roof plan, and I'll finish with that, it's a flat roof in the back as it was before, but now obviously 1 story higher. We are proposing a rubber roof. Also, I think it's worth mentioning the amount of insulation that we're using. And this is just to show the city that we're trying to do what's right for the building and also thinking about longevity. It is 5 inches of insulation, and our architect is taking into account climate change and the impact that the weather has been having and the different types of temperature swings, amount of snow that we've been getting. So this is all scientific calculations on how to manage dew points so we can completely eliminate the risk of condensation, which has been pretty common on buildings with flat roofs lately. On the renderings that you might have seen, we were proposing a gable roof in the back. But since we are landlocked on this side of the property, we felt that having a gutter there would possibly just create additional work in the future as the property next door would be developed. And also, it's a way for us to keep the water going towards our own property line, which is the alley that we own on this side of the building. So I hope that I have clarified and share a little bit more of what the project is all about, and I am open for any questions or clarifications.
Thanks, Leo. So as the board can see from Leo's presentation, the redevelopment of this property is very practical while paying particular attention to the historic needs of the property. The issuance of the historic permit will allow this property to be brought back to life. Which is a significant enhancement to the neighborhood. My office is a couple hundred feet away from this property. I'm looking forward to seeing the final product. But at this point, we're happy to answer any questions that the board members may have. Thank you.
Great. Thank you both very much. I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak in favor? In favor? Okay, seeing none. Is there anyone to speak who's opposed? Opposed? All right, hearing none, I'd like to open it to board member questions.
Hi, I love the project. The heat pumps, are those going to be inside the building or they're going to be on the ground outside?
They will be on the exterior of the building. So we have two heat pumps for the stores. They will be on there. If you're looking at the building from the street, they're going to be on the right-hand side, which we own. We do have the clearance for that. We own 3 feet. We own half of the alley. Mrs. Dunnigan owns the other half. And the additional 5 heat pumps for the units, they're going to be on a covered patio that we have out back, which is an existing condition of the building as well. We typically install them they're attached to the building, and typically 4 feet, above finished floor, above the finished grade, due to the snow accumulation.
Okay, thank you. And also is there anything that can be done to prevent any type of barrier that can be built on the sidewalk or something to prevent future cars from driving into it?
I will start. I had some previous conversations with the engineering department. We will get deep into these conversations as the spring is quickly approaching us. It is our intent. We are going to be doing work to the sidewalks, rebuilding the handicap ramp since we are bringing new mechanicals in to the building. We're bringing a new water line in for the new sprinkler system. We will be hopefully working with the engineering department to be installing some either guardrails or some bollards, some curved bollards to prevent at least the first impact. Back in October, we had a car that hit a light post. The light post fell and actually broke one of our most intact lead glass windows. And Steve and I have had some conversations, Dave Fuller as well from building department. And we will be taking those conversations up with engineering to hopefully get that approved to install some type of barrier there, which, due to the amount of work we're doing, we are going to be rebuilding the sidewalks. It just makes sense, and it's not a huge cost item to accomplish.
Yeah, because they have installed them in a few places downtown recently. At Dutton Street by where the new road comes into the Hamilton Canal, they're there. They're also right down in front of City Hall down there, and they can be done tastefully.
Good to know.
That's all I had, thanks.
Any other board members have questions or comments?
I don't have any questions, Christine McCall. I just want to say thank you for taking on this project. This is a critical corridor, and this building has been dilapidated for quite some time, and we've already seen an improvement, I think, in activity in the area. So just want to say thank you, and I fully support the project.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Christine.
Anyone else? Comments? All right, then I would entertain if someone wants to make a motion to approve with conditions.
I'll make a motion to approve 62 Gorham Street with the recommended motions outlined in Administrator Stoll's memorandum.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Nope. Motion carries. Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
And now
Thank
we'll be opening the public hearing on opening the agenda item on DLHD 22-17 80 Gorham Street, and take it away, gentlemen.
So thanks again, Madam Vice Chair. Again, for the record, my name is John Geary of Geary & Geary LLP, 32 Church Street, Lowell, Mass. The owner and applicant of this property is New Gorham LLC. Leo Montero is the manager of that property, the principal as well. As Steve noted in his notes to the board, this property was formerly known as the Lowell Hotel, most recently occupied by a retail tenant with some housing above on the upper floors. but the property has been vacant and in disrepair for many years now. And you're probably all familiar with the red X on the top of the building. This property is a couple doors down from 62 Gorham, separated by 70 Gorham, which is the Dunnigan building. Property owned and managed by the Dunnigan family, which I believe was restored some years back. The addition of 62, restoration of 62 and 80 Gorham Street would be a very nice complement to that little section of the street. Again, Steve's notes provide a very thorough synopsis of the project. We're seeking a historic permit for 80 Gorham Street. Similar to 62 Gorham, Leo has applied for state and federal historic tax credits. He intends for the redevelopment of this project to include 2 commercial units on the ground floor and 12 residential units on the upper floors. It's a little bit larger scale development than 62 Gorham. We expect that the total cost of the project will be in excess of $1.5 million. We received all of our approvals from the Zoning Board of Appeals as well as the Planning Board. Leo has started some interior work as he has on 62 Gorham Street. So much the same as 62 Gorham Street. This property is just maybe 100 feet off of that very busy intersection of Gorham and Central Street, very visible intersection. And again, the issuance of the historic board here would help get Leo to the point where he can finish the complete restoration of this property, which would significantly enhance the character of the neighborhood and the city in general. So without belaboring the point, I'll turn the presentation over to Leo again so he can go through his design of the property. Leo?
Yep, I'm here. Again, members of the board, my name is Leo Montero. I am the manager of New Gorham LLC, the entity that owns the building at 80 Gorham Street, Lowell, Mass. This building, as John mentioned, a little bit of a larger scale than 62 Gorham, specifically some structural issues with the masonry of the building. In comparison to 62, which most of the structural issues were on the wood framing of the building. This building has some critical issues with its existing masonry, and it's pretty visible from the street. The front facade has a bulge, an 8-inch deflection, where these granite piers that support the facade have leaned forward. So we are actually in the process of restoring this. The work has started. We have shore up the building, the existing roof structure with shoring towers from the basement all the way up to the roof. We have 12 of these towers presently installed in the building, and we are starting to address, believe it or not, the front bulge of the facade is not the most critical portion of this rebuilding of this structure. Is actually in the back of the building, where we have a very a large crack on the masonry wall that needs to be addressed as soon as possible. So that work has started, and we are in the process of doing that. The building currently has, this is the existing plan, it currently has an existing addition that is being demolished. It wasn't built properly, in my opinion, and time tells. It doesn't feel right. It cannot be saved. So we are demolishing this as soon as we fix this back wall here. And we are proposing to build expand the footprint and build a new addition, as we are going to see here on the next set of plans. So this is the addition that we're proposing to build, hence increasing the number of units. The building currently has 5 existing residential units on the existing historic part of the building, which we are keeping, along with the 2 storefronts in the existing portion of the building as well. And the new addition will house the secondary means of egress, proper stairs, The fire escapes that are currently present here will all be removed, and we will be building the 7 additional units in the back. It's the same idea with the heat pumps. I am looking to have this building 100% electric, specifically inside the units. The commercial spaces are it requires some additional conversations with the power companies and the type of tenants that might occupy these spaces. But for the residential component, I am looking to have a carbon neutral or a carbon zero building portion of the building, I should say. I have done this in the city in the past for the record as well. So we do have some experience in accomplishing this. And I can honestly say that we are pretty close on accomplishing this here as well. Again, looking at the addition in the back from a different viewpoint from the right side elevation, also showing the heat pumps here. Another heat pumps here per Steve. We have been working with Steve Stoll on the design of the building, the materials, the siding. We are aware that we need to get his approvals on the finishes, the colors, the materials, etc. We are also keeping, per Steve's recommendation, we are also keeping the new addition inset so it doesn't touch just find my bearings here, guys. We are keeping a 1-foot inset on the addition, so it's not visible from the street. We do have 2 alleys here in between the buildings. So there's one here, and then there's another one here. They're 8-foot alleys. They're not driveways. They're not legal driveways. We are not intending to have cars. So if you're on the street, it's practically impossible for you to see this back addition as well. We are proposing wherever we can. We are building some balconies for some outdoor spaces, but we also are keeping a lot of the existing trees that are here. We are adding some more, and we are also maximizing the use of the lot that we have back here. And there's going to be a patio area here for the residents to, enjoy some outdoor space, et cetera, which I think it is of great value, especially being in a downtown area. Some of the window details here, and differently from 62, which are 2/2, Steve has determined that 80 Gorham Street will possibly have, 6/6 windows, which it will be one of the items in my agenda with Steve in our coming meetings as well. The layout of the units, as you guys can see, I'll start from the bottom. So commercial spaces A and B. This is an existing set of stairs that we are keeping. We are creating new penetrations towards the new back addition, so we can have properly secondary means of egress. This is non-existing. This set of stairs here is non-existing. And obviously all of this back addition is not there at the moment and will be built to accommodate on the first floor 2 additional units. On the second floor, these 2 units here are existing, one on the right and one on the left. Again, existing stairs are to remain. We are keeping the same character, the same layout of the existing historic structure. And in the back here, on the second floor, we also have 2 additional units. Third floor, same idea as the second, existing stairs to remain. We are improving the layout of the units to make them safer, more respecting more of the windows for the proper bedrooms, et cetera. And then on the new addition, building the additional 3 units, and these units will be on the 3rd floor, so we can make use of the space. These will be dual level units. As you can see, they have stairs inside, so they're almost like townhome style units. They're going to be great, great size units, as you can see, townhome. So they're all 2-bedroom units. And on the top floor of the existing building, there is currently a unit there, or there used to be a unit there that we are intending to keep as well, giving us the 12 unit that has been approved. I guess I'll leave at that, and I'm open for questions or comments from the board. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Leo. So clearly this 80 Gorham Street is a much larger scale than 62 Gorham Street. But that the rear addition is inset from the main building and not visible from the street. Neither the planning board nor the zoning board of appeals had any concern with the scale of this project, and I would suggest enthusiastically endorsed it. We've reviewed the conditions to approval that Steve is proposing. We have no issue agreeing to those conditions, and we hope the board agrees that the historic permit should issue for this property as well. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll open the public hearing now. Is anyone here to speak in favor? I was going to say, anyone on Zoom here to speak in favor? Yep. Mr. Faust?
Fred, I think you're muted.
How's that?
Perfect.
That works.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for the time to speak. As Steve Stoll will remember, about 3 years ago, I started to complain that nobody was doing anything about these buildings. Complained to Steve, I complained to the building department, I complained to people walking down the street. These are clearly two of the earliest and most important buildings in Lowell. I actually attended the auction with a check in my pocket. If I had gotten the building, I don't know what the heck I would have done with it. That's why that day I was very glad to meet Leo. Leo is the prescription that the doctor ordered here. He has concern and passion for the buildings. He is doing the right thing. These will be very important contributions to the city, and it will keep the block intact, and the block very much was in danger. So I know the board is supportive. I'm not going to go on and on, but for those of us who have been involved in historic preservation for a good long time, Leo is a great poster boy for the city and these projects. And we heartily endorse this project and suggest your approval. And that goes for both 62 and 80. I just wasn't here for 62.
Great. Thank you very much. Anyone else here or on Zoom to speak in favor? Okay. Seeing none. Anyone here or on Zoom to speak in opposition? In opposition? All right, hearing none, the public hearing is now closed. I'll take any questions or comments from board members.
This is Christine McCall. I don't have any questions. I just wanted to say that the applicant has been an incredibly good community partner, working both with the Division of Development Services and the Police Department to clean and secure both buildings. And I just want to note that this is an important step in our continued redevelopment of the Jam area. And this is, these properties, and this one in particular is located right across the street from an underutilized city parking lot. So I'm not totally concerned about the number of units in close proximity to existing businesses such as the Keep. And I really do think more people and more foot traffic is just going to increase positivity to the area. And there's been an increase in demand for housing in Lowell that is at unprecedented levels. It's something that we at DPD are faced every single day. And I think this is a really great project that couples both the immediate need of new housing while also respecting the historic nature. And I think, as Leo pointed out, and I confirmed myself with the site visit, we're really not going to see the addition from either direction. And I just wanted to say wholeheartedly, I completely support this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Other board members? I had a question about the sort of the contrast between the style of the addition and the existing building, and just sort of what thought process went into that. Obviously, you're not going to build a whole back section out of brick because that's expensive and labor intensive. But if you could just explain a little bit about what went into the design of the new addition in the rear part.
Absolutely. The brick is not only, cost prohibitive nowadays, and it's also time consuming, as you had mentioned. I believe we had originally proposed do the first floor of brick veneer. But I guess between conversations between Steve and myself, we thought that completely differentiate, to make it different, to differentiate the addition to the existing building, we would keep with fiber cement, clapboard siding. As it currently is, the existing addition is just a white vinyl siding building, and we're proposing something even better than that.
I also had specific questions about the windows in the back part. Just they don't look kind of anything like the windows in the existing part, and I didn't know if there was a way you could make that a little more harmonious to kind of bring the two halves of the building together, have windows in the back that look more like or are the same as the windows that are in the front.
We are open to that suggestion as well. It's something that I can work with Steve on. The architectural windows or the historic windows, they cost anywhere between 2.5 to 4 times more a typical window. So I need to be mindful of that as well. My goal is to complete the project. In order for me to do that, I have to be respectful of the items that we are selecting and proposing. So we wanted to put our best foot forward, but also we want to be true and respectful of the budget aspect of things due to the quite a bit of unknowns of this property, the nature of these type of properties. But it's something that I am willing to work with Steve on if it comes to.
Mr. Administrator?
Yes, one thing I wanted to note regarding the windows, and I think the vice chair raises something that's obvious, is that the scale of the windows, potentially, could we possibly look at increasing the scale of them a little bit? They're a little short and squat, and maybe if they were a little bit taller, that might help. To the point of the way the windows look, the 1/1s probably would be the appropriate approach, because when we do the new construction, we try to differentiate that between the old and the new. So you don't usually put the multi-light windows in a piece of new addition, construction, whatever. But one of the things maybe we can look at would be increasing the size of the window. So maybe that solid to void relationship, solid being the wall, void being the window, maybe becomes a little bit more in balance. That might improve it.
Yeah, and something like that would address my concerns. I mean, I live in a historic building, so I understand the cost of replacing the windows as somebody with drafty windows that need to be replaced. But if the shape of them and just kind of could stylistically look more like the windows in the front, that would sort of get to some of what I'm raising.
Got it. No, I understand. I can definitely, work with Steve on that and possibly propose something along those lines, something that is more harmonious with the windows in the front.
Thank you. That's all I have. Did you?
Yeah.
Hi, Lisa Cassidy, representing the National Park Service. I'm sort of on the same bandwagon here as I look at the design of the addition. While I fully support and applaud the restoration of the original building, looking into our guidelines for new construction, I don't really see a harmony with the building that you're trying to address towards the front or any other of the buildings in the area. If you look around, I took a good look at what was there. There is a clapboard building there, but it's sensitive to the window design. There's a building in the back that's brick, given it's not the same shape, but it does have the windows. that look like it. I also think the scale, I don't see any character defining features represented in the addition that are originally on the building. So no windows, the roof line is totally different, even though it's set back and you might not see it from the street. There's a lot of other people living in the back there as well. So it's not just, to me, it's not in harmony with its surrounding buildings. I don't see any part of it similar to the building itself. I'd like to see, windows, perhaps scale, roof line. Even a flat roof would be probably better than the scale that's there. So I just see it totally, that building could be anywhere, and if this is the most important block or one of the most important blocks historically, I don't really see it fitting in.
I guess I would suggest that I would agree with you. The rear of the building probably could be anywhere, but most of that is not visible from the street. Costs are a big consideration here in order to completely restore and rehab the interior and exterior of this building. So that is a strong consideration for Leo. He did indicate that he's willing to work with Steve on some design changes to the windows to make it more appropriate to what we see in front of the building, scale wise. Leo, is there anything that any design that you can think of with regard to the rear addition that would bring that property more in line with the front of the building? I mean, I've been to the rear of the building there, and it will be 100 times better than what's there right now, which all the neighbors, all the abutters to the rear, to the side can see what's there right now as well. Mm-hmm. Any thoughts, Leo?
I guess working on the window layouts and the window styles is definitely something that we can do, especially at this stage of the process. Just changing roof lines, it could be cost prohibitive. I'd like to remind the board that tax credits possibly will not apply to the new addition, just to the existing portion of the building. So we're doing this back condition on our own. So we have to kind of keep that in mind as well. And I'll go back to my first point. My goal is to start and finish this and not to have this sitting like this for, a couple of more years. We will, jump on this as soon as we have all the approvals. But we could work with Steve on the windows. We felt that, just connecting the buildings with the gable roof, it is in line with what currently is around the neighborhood as well, because there are other properties that have done the same thing. And I guess would be just the windows, possibly adding some brick elements. We can have our architect, work on this and revisit this, and
Great, thank you. Any other board members? Yep, Mr. Administrator.
Leo, one other thing I'm thinking of might be that's not a huge cost item would be just looking at water tables, trim, corner boards, things like that would also go hand in hand with the windows. If you see what I'm getting at there, kind of add a little more of that.
absolutely, completely agree with that. That can be done, no problem. Even historic, even trims that might, trim profiles that might replicate some of the historic characters of the area as well.
This is Christine McCall. What was the material of the existing addition? Is it, it's more I'm having my zoning hat on of what was there before, you can replicate it again. Is it similar material?
Most likely
So
that.
the existing,
Siding.
I'm sorry, Leo, go ahead.
currently the existing addition is just a white vinyl siding addition with zero character whatsoever. We are proposing a fiber cement, better material, more in line with the historic, characteristics as well, similar to what has been built around it as well. They have, fiber cement siding or wood, clapboard siding.
Furthermore. Sure. So I don't want you to think that I don't support the project. I feel like my job here as I sit is just to look at our guidelines and what those things say. And as I read under new construction, it asks us to be sensitive to traditional scale and things of that nature. So that's where I'm going with that. I would entertain a motion, for you in your addition to add some character defining features that might represent the building that you're adjoining to, and I that would be something I could vote for. But as it stands here, I would vote no if we couldn't add some additional features to the building.
So what would you want that to look like? Would that be the kind of trim that they were just talking about?
Yeah.
Would that, okay.
I'm carrying some trim, window designs, anything, because at this point, I don't see any character defining features on it, so.
Yes, Mr.
Yeah, so
I just want to comment, looking at it on Google Maps, and this could be misleading, there's a limit to how much you actually see this building at all, because there is quite a lot of, shrubbery and tree stuff there. And it sounded like they were saying they wanted to plant even more trees. So I do just want to point out that, assuming that they stick with what they're saying here, but that they want to maintain this tree, there is a limit to how much even the people in back will see this building.
That is correct, but it is obvious that there has been intentional design for the other buildings around it as well. So you have to consider the other people who have seemingly made an effort to blend in to the surrounding. So,
Mr. Administrator?
no, I have that added in here now as a add-on to one of the conditions. So it would
Okay.
be to further refine the addition of the design of the new addition by looking at the window sizes, the scale of the windows, and the addition of some trim elements, water table, corner boards. And I think that would, bring
Sure.
it more into line. So the materials and the scale, this is very similar to what new construction the boards approved for years and years. The fiber cement board, the scale. I mean, this is in line with what could be accommodated there. And I think we can work with Leo and his architect on just adding those elements. So I think in the end, when you see it, you'll be pleased with the end result.
Any board members?
thank
I
you.
agree. I agree. I agree, Steve, and I'm okay with that.
Any board members who haven't spoken yet want to speak?
I just want to say that I really support the project. I think it's great, and I'm not that concerned about the fact that it's not, a standout building on its own, the addition. And I think with those minor embellishments, the benefit of this project far outweighs that. So I'm going to support it.
Any other final comments? Then I would entertain a motion to approve with conditions, including the additional condition that Steve just wrote down to address Member Cassidy's concerns.
So moved.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Really appreciate your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. All right, next up on the agenda is approval of the minutes of December 13th, 2021.
I reviewed, I didn't have any questions, so I'll just make a motion to approve them.
I second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Motion, motion passes. And next up, other business. Mr. Administrator, do you have any, we obviously all have your report. Sure, terrific.
Absolutely. Good evening, Madam Vice Chair, members of the Historic Board. Again, my name is Peter Crew. I'm the new Director of Cultural Affairs and Special Events here in Lowell. So I just wanted to stop by tonight, mostly to introduce myself to all of you, and I'm looking forward to working with you all. One of the projects, of course, Case is working on is helping to facilitate a partnership between Project Learn and Beyond Walls Again on an expansion of the Mural project they began last year. So we're really excited about that. We're only in the initial stages of that process right now, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you sort of as we go through that process and looking to your guidance as we mature. But it's a really exciting process, and I think people are really going to be excited with where we go. So that's really all I wanted to do tonight, so I appreciate the time.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you and welcome.
Welcome. Thank you so much. Anybody have any questions while I'm here?
I think it would be helpful maybe, so we wrote at the citywide, there was a citywide mural policy and then there was a historic board policy. And I think the process last year, there were definitely some hiccups that arose.
Sure.
And last year, I think we attributed a lot of the hiccups to, it's just new and it was like a project was coming in as we were trying to pass the ordinance. But now that we're a year out from it, I would really appreciate, a solid feedback after we go through this, because the more I'm learning about art policy and someone like Art Up Lowell needs to secure a wall before they can secure an artist, and obviously that will be challenging as our ordinances are written. So I think keeping us apprised, even if it is just under other business, so that we're not closing the door to public art because of red tape. And then if we need to make changes to the overall process and have check-ins, last year we were able to get around it we have a great administrator and so able to condition a lot of things. But I just think fresh perspective, maybe after this mural cycle season, if you would be willing to come back and talk to us about maybe some of the challenges, both in the citywide, but also specifically our historic.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that makes total sense. And I certainly, from my perspective, am looking to engage with the historic board as early and as often as possible to make sure there are, honestly, to make sure there are zero surprises through the process as we go through this. I know that the sort of consortium that's putting this together is hoping to have at least an initial list of possibilities for the summer's project put together by hopefully the first or second week in March. So we'll have time to sort of go through with everybody and figure out what really makes the best candidates overall for this coming summer. So.
Actually, are they still thinking of putting a mural on the Market Street garage?
So we are working with Christine McCall in her office on that. We actually just received an RFP proposal from Christine this evening that we're going to look over. I know that for some of the city-owned buildings that are newer in nature, they sort of fit under different categories than the historic buildings, is my understanding. But the goal is to roll that RFP for city-owned garages into the overarching mural project as well.
Got it. Great. Thank you. Mr. Administrator?
Yeah, one thing to note that Peter and I spoke of, and we're not going to mention the name of the location or anything, but there was one that, was out of our review area. And that's encouraging to spread the art to other sections of the city, neighborhoods, schoolyards, things like that. One of these was in a National Register district that did receive prior state funding that does have a preservation restriction on it in perpetuity from the Mass Historical Commission. So that'll be yet another, and we can work with you and who to contact and all that, and we'll see what they say about this particular location, depending upon where it is on the building, for example. But this particular one I'm speaking of, we would have zero role in, because it's out of the downtown Lowell Historic District. It's in one of the neighborhood districts where we don't review those sorts of things. So just so you know that.
And we would appreciate the help and guidance, Steve. And also, one of the things Case is doing this year in particular is trying to encourage the Mural Consortium to really get out into the neighborhoods more and look at the other projects that are out there. So really, the whole city gets to benefit from projects like this. So that's one of the goals, certainly, of the Case office going into this project.
That's terrific. Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions or comments?
Thank you all.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. I was like, I had 6 in front of me.
I already ate mine.
No, you got Troy's, that's why.
And I can't eat chocolate at night because it's like,
Uh-oh.
yeah.
Everything else in the notes are informational. We're moving ahead on the minimum maintenance spring cleanup for those several buildings, obviously. And, I mean, the other it's all, there's no need to repeat what's in here that I'm sure you've already read, other than the Doors Open Lowell is probably not a thing to probably try to pull off this year. Because LC, do you want to come in? We can see your unit, you can show it. I mean, it's an indoor event. Knowing what the protocols are going to be, then who knows? And it's better to kind of wait, see, and then maybe next year.
We still have limits in our buildings right now, so.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm leaning more towards virtual, social media, maybe a couple of tours working with Dick Howe and Lowell Walks and so forth. Go back to the old-timey Preservation Week events we used to do years and years and years ago. So,
Yep.
anyway.
Build up anticipation. So next year, Doors Open will be lit. Everyone will want to be there.
Yeah, I can't imagine when we finally bring this thing back. We'll probably have to bring back the art doors at the same time.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I've received a couple of calls of people asking about Doors Open Lowell, so I understand COVID complications and not knowing what the rules are and all the effort and time that goes into planning, but I really like the idea that there'd still be something. And so I think anything this board can do, or even the DPD can do to help.
No,
Because I do think bringing more activity, especially outdoor activity downtown is gonna be really important this summer.
I mean, one of the things,
Yeah.
none of you some of you may remember some of this, but years ago, the board's Preservation Week activities revolved around, the cemetery tours at Lowell Cemetery, walks up on Belvedere Hill, Tyler Park, some of the neighborhood districts and so on, downtown walks. We even would do, design seminars at the design center that used to be where Tremonte is now. So the thoughts are possibly to do, a downtown architecture walk that I did a couple of years ago for Lowell Walks. I had about 120 people on it. Seeing what Dick's has for Lowell Cemetery tours, potentially, just plugging in some already existing things. I'm even thinking of, there's a new business downtown, the La Books, and seeing if they'd be willing to do a preservation book-related evening or something like that. Even if it's a local author who's done a book that's somewhat related to design, having a meet the author thing. So doing some things to fill the void, along with all of the social media stuff that we would do anyway on Facebook and such.
Was that at the end of May traditionally?
It's usually, I have to check what the dates are this year. It's Preservation Month, so the entire month nationally is Preservation Month. And Doors Open Lowell, we would generally do the Friday and Saturday right before Mother's Day, because we had to be careful of the UMass Lowell commencement and the traffic, and our shuttle bus would have to use various Batcave routes to avoid downtown and the traffic and all. So we tried to stay off of that weekend, and for the most part. But it's disappointing not to have it again, because it's a really great event, and
I heard about it.
to
It's
see
really
people
awesome.
going around.
Yeah.
But I think what we can do is, it takes far less planning. I mean, right now, we already have the roster locked in, the sponsors lined up, the events lined up. It's a lot to do between me and whoever the Park Service designee is over there. Used to be Christine Bruins would be my counterpart at Park Service doing that.
Yeah.
And then and Heritage Partnerships, our fiduciary agent, for the event as well. But, no, we will have Preservation Month activities, just, I think we have to kind of give it just one more year to be safe.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so, we don't want Doors Open Lowell to be blamed for the next outbreak or something.
No. No.
I know you're not going to run through the whole thing. I just wanted to give you kudos for the website updates, for making it ADA compliant. I said I wanted to give you kudos for updating the website to be ADA compliant.
Well, there's a gentleman in MIS department here who I guess it's an automatic algorithm or something they run. And it was funny because one of the ones that we got hit hard on were tables, which I used as a design element, as opposed to the way certain people are able to perceive things. So it was tedious, but a lot went into it, got rid of all the tables, adjusted links, certain things, the way people click on something. There's still one or two things on there, minor, to deal with, but the bulk of them have been taken care of, and it's clean. It actually cleaned it up a little bit too, I think, in general. And then I know some of you, I've been sending some of you the architects' updates and add-ons. The UMass Lowell, one of the professors I know up there, just eats this stuff up. She's like, this is awesome. But the ADA thing was important to do. And I did check in with him, by the way, in MIS to see how we were doing. He said, oh, no, I'm going to run a overall one for everyone again soon, just to see how we're all doing. And if there's others he picks up on, no way it will be anywhere near like it was, though. But thank you for that, though.
Yeah.
Any other board member comments, questions, events coming up that people should know about?
Yes, I do.
Great.
Something exciting. So, on June the 13th for the week, I will be hosting a masonry workshop. Yep. And well, no, because it kind of revolved around everybody says, but I'm hoping, Steve, you would like to be involved. We're just at the infancy. It's actually, there's a program called BEST. It's like brick, earth, stone, and timber, and they travel around the country and they have different preservation workshops. But I think that it's not just park. Like, I think we can invite some folks from the city. And I'm kind of rounding up a couple of guest speakers, but it's going to be some classroom. Talking about compliance, and then it's going to be hands-on, and I'm going to pick a area, probably like our Moody Street feeder, but it'll be basically like mortar analysis and some really good stuff. So, and I've been trying since I got here. These folks are like, oh, we want an East Coast place to come. I'm like, come to Lowell. So I think I'm going to host several of these workshops. First of many will be that. So, the masonry workshop. So that's definitely scheduled, but Steve, I'm hoping to chat with you. It would be kind of nice to do like a city walk or something about.
Well, you know what's interesting about the masonry is when you post, once in a while, oh, today we stopped by wherever to check on the samples of the paint or the mortar. You won't believe the public, how they respond to this stuff. Like, they think sometimes, it's amazing. They're so interested in how those little details matter in terms of the pointing of a masonry wall, in terms of the depth, the profile, the texture type of mortar. So yeah, this will be great to actually promote and talk about. And in fact, I know a couple of masons locally who probably would be thrilled to join in and be part of it, to take it or whatever.
So the gals that are running it are of the Historic Preservation Center and then the Western Center for Historic Preservation in Wyoming. And so they'll be setting up what the class will be, like a classroom setting, and then who all can invite. I mean, we can't invite everybody, right? But it'll be also like public if we're out there, like on the street, so people can come out. And so anyway, so more details to come because I'm not totally organizing, but I'm facilitating here. So I'm hoping to also get Stephen Pisani from Hayes. He's our new historic architect leader at the Hayes Group for Park Service. So get him in there. So anyway, it's really exciting. So, yep.
One thing to note regarding architects at the Park Service, David Lieb, some of you have met David or not, he's moving on after replacing Charlie Tenetti a short time ago. So David is in Salem. He's going to work for the Denver Service Center, but unlike Charlie, he's not moving to Colorado. He's going to work for Denver remotely from Salem.
Yep.
So I still might be able to twist his arm into looking at
Yeah, me
things
too.
every now and then. But one thing I will note, next month you'll probably see 733 Broadway Street on the agenda, public hearing for new housing there and an addition. And we've had a couple of virtual design review meetings. Troy's been there and David's been there as well. And Elsie, you can pass this on to the park. I mean, we're going to miss David because his background is affordable housing, elderly housing, buildings like that, and he's been fantastic. And the architect and the developer have really appreciated his input. So
Yeah, I will share that.
it's going to be a loss, but we seem to be doing pretty well getting new historic architects at the park, so next up at the
Well,
line, I
let's-
guess.
Let's hope so, and that, I don't think he'll be completely disconnected ever, so that's a good thing, so. Yep, I think so. Yep.
I mean, that's a hard act to follow, masonry. Does anybody have any other comments, or otherwise I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Well done, Carrie. Thanks
Happy
for the-
Valentine's
Yep.
Day.
Thanks for
Yay.
the candy, Steve.
Yes, thank you.